We're headed there, man. Get ready to be the inferior human that will not take the mark. Get ready. Because the superheroes who are going to do all this stuff are going to be better than you. They're going to be gods, and I believe that's where part of the persecution is going to come. The other persecution, and I have said this for years, and I want you to really listen today. Take notes. I have this all in a PowerPoint that I put together this morning. I recorded the second part of the Watchman broadcast this morning. I've just been a busy little beaver today. And I got done, and I came in here and started working on, I've got about 18 slides to go through, and I want you to listen carefully, and I want you to take a lot of notes. Let me put my microphone up a little bit. There, we get some more volume. You and I are in danger. You and I are in danger. Number one, we're going to be the resistors. We are not going to take the technology. Now, I am Mr. Techno Guy at Bethel Church. Everything around here operates on technology that I have put in place. It's an interest of mine. It's like a hobby. I sit and I fool with computers. I will load a Linux distribution onto my computer just for something to do, just to play with it. If you don't know what that is, don't worry about it. But that's me, and I've got my iPhone, my iPad, I got computers everywhere, all over me. They're just not in me, and I think that's where I would probably draw the line. But anyway, we are in a technological society, and the technocracy is going to take over one of these days. No doubt in my mind. So a certain amount of persecution is going to come from the gods, who are going to say, you worthless, puny human, you're not worthy to live on this earth. The other person, and you're dangerous because you won't take that. The other persecution, I believe, is going to come, has already, and is right now coming from the pulpits and the doorways of the church, or the churches. I'll say it that way. The real church, we don't persecute each other. But from the pulpits and the doorways of the churches in America, in this world, because you are dangerous, because there are two spirits in this world that are working against each other. The spirit of truth, the spirit of Christ, the spirit of God, the spirit of the Scripture, the inspiration of the Scriptures, and then there is the spirit of this world, the god of this world, the father of all lies, the serpent, the deceiver. There is enmity, according to Genesis 3. They are working against each other, and whatever spirit you have in you, you are going to follow the leadership of that spirit, and you are going to work against the other spirit. I'll put it to you like Ahab not Ahab and Jezebel, but Elijah and Jezebel. They had purpose to destroy one another. Elijah knew what he was getting into when he first started dealing with Jezebel. He knew it, and even so, he ended up, after the whole deal, even winning the contest, he ended up running away, licking his wounds, and saying, "Okay, God, I'm done here. Take me away. I don't want to live anymore." And I'll tell you, when you deal with Jezebel, that's what you feel like doing. Okay, I fought that battle. It's like fighting Leviathan. I don't ever want to do that again. And Jezebel certainly knew who she was up against, and the fact that her prophets lost did not change her one bit. She did not say, "Oh my goodness, Baal is not God. I'm going to worship Jehovah." She didn't do that. She said, "I'll kill him if it's the last thing I'll do. I'll have him dead if it's the last thing I do." So there lies the two spirits. A video came across my way. Some of you have seen it. Some of you have sent it to me, and I appreciate that. This ministry operates on the fact that I'm not the only one with eyeballs out there. You guys are the ones with binoculars and telescopes and microscopes. You're looking everywhere, and then you're sending it to me. Pastor Mike, what do you think about this? One of my problems is that sometimes that's overwhelming. I don't know how to handle the volume of information that comes in all the time, but I try to do my best. Certainly, there's no way I could answer every email that's sent to me. There's just no way I could. But what I try, I use the technology, and I try to, the things that you send me that I find interesting, I use an app called Evernote. And when you send me an email or something like that, and I find it interesting, I copy and paste and make an Evernote out of it, and it sends it to the cloud, and the cloud comes down here. You know, any place I can get access to a computer, I have that information, and I like that. That helps me work. And so this video was sent to me. This is a fellow by the name of John Piper. Now, I went to John Piper's website. Here is his website. It's called desiringgod.org. There's his phone number if you want to call him. Go ahead. I dare you to call him. See what he says. The logo is interesting to me, but I'm just going to say, well, you know what? I'm not going to make too much of the logo. And by the way, if you don't understand all about symbols yet, what you're looking at is the center point. It's the idea of the center point. And you say, well, it's a cross. No, that's not a cross. That is the center point. You have all of the arrows pointing in toward the center. Have you ever done meditation? Have you ever done yoga? Have you ever done any kind of martial arts or anything like that where they tell you you've got to center yourself? Wax on, wax off. You have to get in the center. Or you'll hear the gurus, or you'll hear the meditation experts or whatever say, now find your center. Now get down to the center point. The center point is basically, it's like the core of the labyrinth or the maze. There's a God in there. There is a spiritual force, an entity at the center point, the cross point. That's why all those churches now are calling themselves cross point or center point, because there is an energy, a divine energy at the divine center of every human being. The spark of divinity is what it is. It's Gnosticism. And at that core, if you can tap into the center of that, if you can go down deep now, down way, way, way down, and tap into that and release that, then you can have all this God stuff in your life. That's a false gospel. It's paganism. It's witchcraft, it's sorcery, it's contacting familiar spirits, and, oh, by the way, you're going to be partly responsible for releasing the Antichrist one of these days, and I'm going to show you that. But aside from what I know about the language of symbols, I could say all that, and this organization may just be a great organization trying to spread the gospel, and they just, out of ignorance, because they don't know what I know, they may have, out of ignorance, picked this particular symbol. I don't think so. So let's get the idea of the symbol away, and let's look at, again, let's look at what comes out of their mouth, and let's understand the spirit behind what they said. And there is, and you have to decide, is this the Holy Spirit of God, or is this the spirit of this world, the God of this world? And it has to be one or the other, but it cannot be both. It cannot be a mixture of both, because God does not have communion with the devil. Christ did not come in concord with Belial. They don't get along. They are at enmity together. Your flesh is at enmity with your spirit, and you know it. You probably dealt with it today. I know I have today. I've had to deal with my flesh today. It's kind of a rough day for me, and if you have followed my tweets, you know why. And I tweeted earlier about the fact that I asked the question, are there pastors who are secretly trying to remove the King James Bible out of churches and replace it with something else? Is that happening? And I saw some of the comments on Facebook, and this guy said they're not doing it secretly. Looks like they're blatant about it. Well, I will tell you, some of them are doing it very subtly and very secretly. And I remember several years ago I was reading a blog by Free Will Baptist pastors. That's the denomination that we came out of. A blog by Free Will Baptist pastors, and one of the blog headings, or it wasn't a blog, what was it? It was a discussion group. One of the discussion points was how to get your church out of the King James Bible. And I was just, my jaw dropped. I was stunned. And I'm reading what pastors, some of these guys, I knew who they were. And I'm reading from pastors about how they were telling other pastors, well, this is how you do it. And one pastor after another was saying, yeah, I went to this church, I got hired by this church, and they use the King James, and I want to get them out of that King James. So I want to get them in the NIV and all the other Bibles. I want to get them in that, but they're stuck on that King James, and I want to get them out. Well, listen, if that church pastor is not compatible with you because you use all these other Bibles and they're using the King James, get out. Why don't you leave? You coward. Or why don't you get up behind the pulpit? Why didn't you get up there when you were trying out to preach at that church? Why didn't you get up behind the pulpit and say, now I know you guys are King James only, but I want to tell you something. I stand on the NIV and the Alexandrian text and the Vaticanus and the Sinaiticus text. That's what I stand on, and if you can't handle that, then you shouldn't have me as your pastor. But that's not what they did. They hired on at that church. And then they decided, well, I don't like this King James only stuff. And so they decided now that they were going to remove that church away from the King James Bible. How in the world can we do it? And so one pastor is writing in. He said, well, here's what I did. Here's what I did. I started, I'll use the King James. But he said, then what I do is every now and then, he said, I want you to listen to this. I want you to take notes on this, people. Listen to this. Listen to what this pastor said. What I started doing was, just slowly but surely, I started, reading out of the King James, putting my notes in King James, and then slowly but surely, here's what I said. Now, another translation says this, or according to the original Greek or Hebrew, it says this. That is step one. It is, I'm telling you people, listen to me, it is step number one. That pastor was telling these other pastors, here's how you do it. Step one, read the King James, and then every now and then in your message say, now, according to the original Greek, here's what it says, or I like another translation that says it this way. That's step number one.